Hi everyone, welcome to this week. Expand our use of the subjunctive by learning purpose and result clauses. And on the way to that, we will review the imperfect subjunctive, which we did last week. All right, so here's the imperfect subjunctive. You might remember that it is the present active infinitive, which is the RE form, plus endings, and that works for both active and passive. The important thing is that this formula works for all verbs, including irregular verbs. It's just that irregular infinitive plus the endings. And there is no change made to the infinitive. Sometimes I find that students feel compelled to somehow change the infinitive. It is exactly the form as it is, plus the endings. Remember last week we talked that there is no standard translation for the imperfect subjunctive. It will depend on how it is being used. And so this week we'll look at a couple of those uses. So here's just some review for the imperfect subjunctive. You're identifying whether it's an infinitive or a subjunctive. This was part of last week. But if you want some more practice with it or want to get back into it, feel free to go through it. All right, I had another little glitch. Apparently, my program does not want to be in a good mood today. So, sorry about that. That one I think was a little smoother until I mentioned it. Anyway, let's keep going. All right, no main clause in the Niagara motto, all right, goes right into the purpose clause. You can see the subjunctive verb there, cognoscant. All right, a lot of these will be this way. The idea is that, the understood main clause is come to our school, or this school, teaches you so that, etc. All right. Ut omnes te cognoscant, so that everyone might know you. All right. So omnes is the subject of cognoscant. Te, of course, is the accusative. So that everyone might know you. Similar with ut vitam habeant, so that they, everyone, whatever the subject might be, might have life. All right, and the metaphorical meaning of life, of course, like a good life or fulfilling life, something like that. All right. Oh, and I'd point out, too, the different present subjunctive forms, so we're not dealing so much with the present subjunctive in this chapter, but it is worth pointing out. Cognoscant, third conjugation subjunctive with that A, and then habeant, second conjugation subjunctive with that EA. All right, moving on to Bradford College, now closed. All right. I rise up, sorgo. All right. I rise up so that I might be useful. I get up so that I might be useful. Sorgo in its literal form means like to get out of bed. I'm not sure they're being that literal, but maybe they are. So I get up, right, to be useful. And again, because the subjects are the same, first person singular, you can also use the to translation. I get up to be useful. All right. And then finally, Cal State Fresno. All right. Accipe, accept the light so that you might return or give back. All right. Light, of course, again, the metaphor for kind of learning or enlightenment. All right. Accept the light to give back. All right. So just complete the translation, right, using the purpose clause. This is a relatively famous poem of Catullus. Catullus is a Latin poet, a Roman poet of the 1st century BC, famous for kind of moving away from the epic genre, epics being those kind of war poems that were basically like books for us. Catullus focusing much more on kind of incidental and emotional poetry. This is a poem about him visiting the tomb of his brother who died while traveling. So he himself, Catullus, has traveled to go visit this tomb and has written a poem kind of in tribute to his brother. All right. So the whole poem is translated, and we're just translating the purpose clauses in the blanks below. So carried through many peoples and through many seas, I arrive at this miserable tomb, brother. Right. This is his brother's tomb. So ut donarem. All right. Why does he arrive at this miserable tomb? I arrive at this miserable tomb, brother. Ut donarem, to give you your last rites, and ut alloquerer, to address. All right, to speak to your mute ashes uselessly. All right, and again, because the subjects are the same, so I arrive, of course, I is the subject. Donarm, of course, I is the subject. Same with alloquerer, I is the subject. That's passive, but it's a deponent. All right, we can translate it with that to translation. We can also say, I arrive at this miserable tomb, brother, so that I might give you your last rites, and so that I might address your mute ashes uselessly. Okay, so either translation is fine when the subjects are the same, but of course the infinitive translation is a little smoother. All right, so shifting gears a little bit. This is the result clause. So a couple of things about the result clause. So one, you still have this use of the word ut. All right, it will mean something a little different, but a little similar when it's used in a result clause. Ut in a result clause will mean that. All right, but the trick is in the main clause, right? So in our main clause, you're going to have some sort of word most times, not all the time, but most times, that means so. And so the so that of the ut of the purpose clause in the result clause is going to be sort of split up into two separate words. And that's just a way to think of it. The Romans, of course, didn't kind of process it that way, but that's just a way for us to think of it, especially with purpose and result clauses being relatively similar. All right. So some of those words, and again, these are in your book, but some of those words, those kind of signpost words or trigger words are going to be tom, which means so. All right. Tantum, which means, you know what? Tantus, which means so much or so great. All right, ita, which means so, etc. All right, so you can see here, right, that form of tantus, right, tantus it's an adjective. All right, so again, finishing the translation, Messalina was of tanta libidinous, such great desire, all right, ut se immutaret, all right, so Messalina was of such great desire to change herself. All right. And again, such great desire to change yourself. And the to kind of comes from the desire part. All right. With respect to her appearance. All right. Oh, woohoo. actually, my fault. I messed that up. It is the correct translation, but ut is actually a purpose clause, the first ut there. All right, and it's the descenderet here that is the result clause. So she was of such great desire to change herself with respect to her appearance that she descended with a slave woman from the Palatine, and she stood in public in the Circus Maximus through the night. I apologize. So the ut se immutaret is in fact a purpose clause. All right, and it's the descenderet that is the result clause, as well as the prostaret. So she was of such great desire that she descended with a slave woman from the Palatine, and she stood in public in the Circus Maximus through the night. So you can see how the so that of ut is sort of split up between the trigger word, in this case tanta, and the ut. All right, and then the se immutaret, as I said, is sort of a purpose clause added in there for illustration, contrast sake. All right. All right, here are some more. All right, I promise you this, conscript fathers, that there will be in my advice tantam diligentiam. And again, there's that trigger word, that so word, so much diligence. In you, so much authority, tantam auctoritatem. In the Roman cavalry or knights, essentially, so much virtue. All right, in all good men, so much agreement or harmony. All right, and then the ut, that you see that everything has been made clear, that everything has been brought to light, etc., etc. Excuse me. So all those tantams, right, and this is just repeated structure, all those tantams set up the result clause of ut videatis. So much diligence, so much authority, so much virtue, so much consensus, that you will see that everything has been made clear, ... All right. So now indeed what life is left for you, for at this point I will speak to you in such a way, and seek is that trigger word. All right. So seek is in such a way, and the such is really the part that sets up the two. So for this point I will speak to you in such a way that I seem, or that I will seem, to be influenced not by hatred, with which I should be influenced, but that I seem to be influenced by pity, none of which is owed to you. So seek is a signpost word, and again, that I seem, and these are, and this is the same for this as well. Remember that video in the passive means seem, often with an M, rather than be seen. It can mean either, but to be seen by someone as is, of course, to seem, and so a lot of times that's what it means. All right, so these are your summatives, and I think I made a mistake in the order, but I'll address that when I sort of get to it. Just a passage to read, so I'll do a little bit of it for you, and then you can sort of pick up after that. Vocab is he. You know what? Do this. This is where I screwed up. I kind of repeated the summative. There we go. So the vocab is there. All right. So haec est prima aeta, so this is the first age of the Roman people, kind of the first era of the Roman people. All right. As if it were an infant or in its infancy, quasi infantia. All right. And they're talking about the monarchy. All right. So which, quam, excuse me, under the 7 kings, all right, by a certain industry, by a certain sort of diligence, all right, of the fates, all right, so different in outlook, in genius, in thought, all right, as ut, the reason of the Republic, the approach of the Republic, and the utility was demanding. And the quam, way back here, is actually the object of the postulabat. All right, so the age which all these things was demanding. All right, for who is more ardent, more fiery, all right, more passionate, lost my place, than Romulus. Remember, that's an ablative of comparison. All right. It was necessary. Opus est is a bit of an idiom. All right. It was necessary for such a man to invade the kingdom. All right, who was more religious than Numa? And you get the idea. It kind of goes from there. All right, so that's your... And then your writing translating into Latin, and I'll do one for you and leave the rest for you. All right, Rome was so great that other nations were afraid to attack. So again, the so is our trigger word in terms of a result clause. So the that is going to be ut. All right, so Roma, and I'll use tanta erat. So that's my Rome was so great, right? That's my main clause. Now I need my result clause, ut. All right, nationes, maybe gentes, people, something like that. All right, alteri, actually. All right. Opugnare, and then we're afraid. So timerent. Oops, sorry. Missed a couple of syllables there. Timerent. And there is my imperfect subjunctive, right? There's the ERE and, of course, the ending. So Rome was so great that other nations, nationes, alteri, were afraid. Timerent, there's my subjunctive. To attack, and opugnare is just an infinitive to go with timerent. All right, that is all for this week. Sorry about the little mix-up with the summative slides. Please be in touch if you have any questions, and I will be here next week. Thanks.